Jamie from Texas, him, has an issue with our chat poll. So let's bring him up and see what his issue is. Hi, Jamie. What's your issue?
Well, I'm a bit wanting to push back against the sentiment of it. I mean, the spirit of it is obviously we want to keep in God, in God we trust off our money and things like that. But I am not a fan of lionizing science for science's sake. I mean, it's a useful and the best version of truth-seeking we found, but it, in and of itself, is not absolutely bulletproof. And I am of the opinion that we shouldn't, it's worship rhetoric, and I really would want to avoid that, especially in places like classrooms where kids are impressionable, and it might start making them do things like commit the argument from authorities, like if you call yourself a scientist because we in science we trust, then you'll just believe them, and that's where we end up with things like, pseudoscience getting a foothold, which kind of, irks me somewhat. So not to be too pedantic about it, but I really don't think we should have slogans like that. Also, dogmatic slogans are the weapon of the enemy, and we should not use them.
Jamie, your voice sounds really familiar. Did you used to call into this show quite a bit before?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I actually called in, but I was known to call quite frequently into late 2022.
I thought so. I thought you sounded familiar. So what would you suggest is a good way to move forward then?
Well, again, it's not lionizing science as a concept. It's just making sure that science is taught properly funded, teachers get proper pay, and that we keep non-science and pseudoscience out of the classroom. Don't say that science is in science we trust. Teach science in a manner that instills trust in the scientific method in the children. Because if it's taught properly and well, you don't have to tell them to trust it. It's evident, self-evident that it works.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. And that's the point of having the poll, is to actually bring up things like that. And I like that it sort of contrasts the two together in terms of, the as you mentioned, the in God we trust, which in Australia is less of a thing we see. But I agree with you. We should not have dogmatic following of any science. That's against the whole purpose. And so I think it's just to try and get people thinking about, okay, but how do we teach it? How do we actually encourage things or encourage people to understand it in a way that is healthy, rather than just, I'm going to believe these people blindly. And yeah, I don't want people to believe me just because I have a formal science training. That's not why I did it. I did it so that I would know enough that when I'm trying to say something, I at least, hopefully, for the most part, will get most of it correct, or at least will do my best to. And if I make an error, people can point that out. As I mentioned earlier, I have no problem with being wrong, because that's how I improve as well. And you're right that that's how science works. It's not just, oh, well, we found this one thing and therefore it's going to be true. It's going to be the best reflection on reality. No, science is iterative. It's going to work on it. And at least in academia, people compete with each other. You're trying to constantly overturn and improve upon what other people have done. And I think that's why you can't just say in science we trust. I agree with you that it should be, if you teach the method, if you teach how it works, then people will come to understand that it is about continual improvement, and you don't need to just blindly believe it. In fact, you can apply critical thinking and scientific thinking to scientific findings and get further. If I see, it was like when, for example, when we saw the paper that came out that said that the amount of phosgene detected in Venus indicated there's possible life. My first thought was, but is it? And so I actually went and read the paper, and it was one of the possibilities they mentioned if the amount that they detected was correct. It turns out that there was a lot of controversy about how much they detected and whether it was accurate. So it's unlikely that it was an indicator of life, but it's a little more nuanced. And that's why I think you shouldn't just, oh, I heard this science thing and it's correct.
Yeah. And even the word science has been co-opted, especially in this capitalistic world in which we live, where it's like you watch any given flipping shampoo commercial and here comes the science, and it isn't science.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of babble to sell your product.
Yeah, and that's, I think the other thing is that when you have a slogan or something like in science we trust, it makes science into an entity or almost like a belief system, which it's not. Science or the scientific method is exactly that. It's a method. It's a process. You use it like a tool, but like a sledgehammer, it has its uses, and you don't want to use the wrong scientific approach for the wrong thing. And so, yeah, it's not. And that's one of the things that you're right, is that people have sort of made it into like either buzzword, or they try and represent it as, oh, you just believe in science. I'm like, no. I believe, like, I believe that the method is a appropriate one, but you got to understand that that's not the end of the story. I don't know if that helps a bit too.
Yeah, and I won't keep you too much long. I know you've probably got other callers on the line, but I will leave you with this. One of the reasons why that phrasing got to me, and I feel like I've been debated, by the way, but one of the reasons why that phrasing got to me is that for reasons, if you know, you know, I have been told by people, oh, science is a religion. You just have faith in science, and it's no better than religion, and it just makes my teeth invert and my belly button explode. And I'm just like, no, that's not how it works. But anyway, that's my last word.
I think one of the problems that we have with science and people not understanding it is actually the media. And with something that was just mentioned is that a lot of times we have people who are writing news stories who are not scientists, and they're looking at this data and they're not interpreting it from a scientific frame of mind, but from a mind that's what's going to sell newspapers. So, hey, there's so much phosgene on Venus, there must be life there. And that's what you see in the headline, life on Venus, life is found on Venus. And that doesn't accurately portray what's going on in this instance, as we've already seen. I had a problem with this myself when we made a discovery of a new mineral in Michigan that became quite popular. And I was actually on TV in Japan over it. It's how I kind of got famous. But there was so much misinformation that went out about my discovery that I wrote the paper in 2019. I am still correcting people on the misinformation that went out because of the media, strictly the media. So we do have that problem that we have to face too.
Yeah, there are many, many heads to that hydra that are either trying to co-opt science, poo-poo science, or misrepresent science. But yeah, so rock on, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call. Thank you for letting me have my 2 cents and hopefully proving that atheism is not a monolith, and we can disagree in some ways and also agree in others. And I'll talk to you later.